I stand 5'2", 100 pounds, and people may think I'm defenseless. Little do they know, I have a secret weapon, my pen. Although, that's honestly more of a metaphor because I low-key just use my phone to write. In this box of weaponry, I have created poems which speak to my truths, often not centered in a Eurocentric society. Through my poems, I've highlighted the stories of my people, my mother's ancestry, my legacy, my birthright. Through my artillery, I have created self-defense tactics against depression, self-hate, and identity crises often caused by a feeling of a lack of belonging. I found the antithesis of injustice, which is poetry as activism. Hello, everyone. My name is Malaya Ulan, which means free reign in Tagalog, one of the many languages of the Philippines. And this is my story on how I became the 2024 to 2025 Youth Poet Laureate of Philadelphia, and how poetry became my weapon and my defense. The first poem I ever wrote goes like this. I am the hot cocoa when the sun has been tucked away. I am the mango lassies on a hot summer day. I am the pencil drawing a path to the art. I am the girl who's ventured from the dullness of the suburbs to the excitement of the city. I am from the root of 7,107 islands, filled with oceans, trees, and life. I am Filipino. I am me, and I celebrate me. Hey, that poem kind of cooked, all right? Like, younger me was kind of cooking, I'm not gonna lie. Although, when I think back to that poem, that moment was a pivotal moment in my life. Around that same time, I submitted this very elementary poem to a Mighty Writers competition. And surprisingly, I won. My first cash prize, $50. 12-year-old me felt affirmed, not just because of the cash prize, not just because of the award, but because they appreciated I was proclaiming my identity, that I am Filipino. It's been a journey. What 12-year-old me was trying to affirm within that poem was my identity as the child of an immigrant. My nanay, mother in Tagalog, immigrated to the United States in the year of 2000, alone. And she would later do her best to pass on her culture to me, a culture not often discussed in even history classes. In fact, my history teacher in middle school once taught me that Magellan of Spain circumnavigated the world, when in truth, Lapu-Lapu, chief of Mactan, defeated him after he tried to colonize the Philippines. This poem was a reclamation of all the times we breezed through Asian and Pacific Islander history, and I was left feeling isolated, disappointed, unseen. Of all the times I was simply considered the other on the identity checklist. of when students pushed me against the wall, forcing me into a chokehold to get candy out of my mouth, or when they kicked balls at me and a girl came up to me saying, sorry. I was an easy target. And I had to figure out my best armor. And that became poetry. Growing up, my mother always emphasized the importance to stay grounded in one's culture. It is the only way to not get lost, to not get carried away trying on different personas. And so, we visit the Philippines as often as we can. It became a yearly summer program, a way to connect to my lola, my grandmother, my titas and titos, aunts and uncles, and to the land, which is still rooted in farming, fishing, and spirit. I carry these things back with me to the United States through the poetic films I make, archiving the memories and joyful moments as my counterweapon. Often, kids my age grew up watching propaganda films, such as Tarzan, The Jungle Book, or The Road to El Dorado. These films portrayed people of color as primitive, or even showed biased, hypersexualized versions of history. However, I prefer to create films that highlight the beauty of my people, often deemed savage by Western cinema. In these films, I include poetry, inspired by Filipino revolutionary fighters who used poetry as activism. And so, has anybody heard of Jose Rizal? Jose Rizal was Filipino nationalist, writer, and polymath activist at the end of the Spanish colonial era of the Philippines. He wasn't a man of arms, but his words were his bullets. And so, in 1896, he was executed by the Spanish colonial empire for exposing the atrocities they committed against Filipino indigenous people. He published his novel, Noli Me Tangere, exposing Spanish oppression and inciting revolution. Before his execution, he marched to his deathbed, reciting his poem, Mi Ultimo Adios, my final goodbye, a final love letter to his motherland. He wrote about the honor to die for his country in hopes that his people would one day see better days. For me, I write love letters to my ancestral land. But instead of a final goodbye, it is a hello to a culture I have longed to experience outside of a summer vacation. And so, inspired by Jose Rizal, I led a protest from my high school and other high schools around the Philadelphia School District. In 9th grade, I was horrified to my discovery that dozens of teachers around the Philadelphia School District were to be cut from targeted schools because of a district enrollment error. I gathered people through social media and by visiting advisories or citing speeches on why they should support our collective cause. We fought to keep our teachers, our small class sizes, and the funding we deserve. And so, when all 200 of us marched down Broad Street, I said, who are we to them? Are we the young minds to be cared for, or statistics to be counted and ignored? Because they treat us like a chore, decide when they want to care on their own accord. But what about what we need? What about the students tossed into schools that make our minds bleed? What about the students who don't get a good education? Then they tell us to fight for this nation? But they won't fight for us, though. Instead, they check the diversity box, check the test scores, check if the curriculum is comfortable enough. But check. Did they talk about racism? Oh, yeah. Of course they did. Moving on, let's talk about Shakespeare instead. So they check to get their checks and line their pockets with profit. So now, who are we to them? Because we're children, but we sure ain't their children. After the protest, we received news that the astounding number of 10 teachers that were to be cut from each targeted school had shrunken to only 2 teachers. While we still lost our teachers, communal resistance and poetry had made a change in our schools. Just like José Rizal, poetry for me had proven to be a powerful tool with responsibility. With each end of a poem, we leave mic drops, bombs filled with seeds of inquiry of our shared struggles, cross-cultural connections, and solidarity. Our cultures connect through the shared use of poetry as activism, whether it be the Filipino and Mexican farm laborers who united in California, or the people of Africa whose migration to the Americas was forced through enslavement. These are the stories our country was built upon, and the stories which have been told through poetry. These people's children became children just like me, hyphenated Americans. We blossom from the seeds of our parents' hope for us. And yet, the bloodshed of our ancestors is still buried deep within the soil. Here is my final counterweapon, a poem about a vegetable whose nutrients have fed communities of the global south. A camote, or a sweet potato in English. Green grass parts as I run through the field. It's serene. And yet, I look up to the sky, a dark shade of disdain. I can hear distant sounds of war, screeching, wailing. I look down towards the forgiving earth. Soil crusts between my calloused feet. I spread my toes, sinking into the ground, reaching out for Mother Earth's bearings. A sweet potato? A camote? A vegetable whose roots extend across diasporas, buried beneath layers of dead matter, she sits, trapped deep within the soil. Her stems reaching up to the sky, crawling across the ground like a war cry, for even beneath the surface of the earth, she can still feel our suffering. Her blooming flowers attempt to mask her weeping when she realizes that it's okay to cry, to grieve her losses, to paint her tears no matter how ugly a color, it's okay. Held by the life that stirs in the soil, she finds moments of rest so she can rise from the ground and finally give again. So I can finally give again. So I can finally give again through my poetry. Because poetry is not just my weapon. It is my healing. Not just mine, but it can be a tool for you to use for your own healing as well. And in writing to heal yourself, your poetry has the power to reach out to others and heal them as well. Thank you all for having me. My name is Malaya Ulan. Ang pangalan ko ay Malaya Ulan. I hope I have inspired you to pick up your own pen and write your stories. Thank you all. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.